This is A New Nigeria with Wale Oluwade. This is your current affairs program where we critically examine the strategic issues bedeviling Nigeria's developmental aspirations and boldly offer practical, bold, and audacious ideas on building the Nigeria of our collective desires. On today's episode of the program, we'll be examining our general state of the nation, especially our democratic practices, as it were. Now, is Nigeria a democracy? Indeed, what makes a democratic society? From available studies, some of the factors that contribute to a society being called democratic includes an independent, truly independent electoral management body, an independent judiciary, political parties that are strong and truly democratic in all their practices. Also, you need to have a virile and independent media establishment, and then also you need to have political actors who have imbibed and demonstrated, democratic culture and behavioral, practices, and so on and so forth. Do we have all of this in our political system in Nigeria? These are some of the issues we'll be examining today. I'm being joined today by two eminent Nigerians, who would help me to do justice to this topic, a professor of political science and a senior advocate of Nigeria. We'll take this short break, and when I return, we'll get right into the conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Like I said, one of my guests is already here. Professor Yusuf Ali-Zoaka is a lecturer at the Department of Political Science, Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Abuja. Prof, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wale.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Nice to have you.
Thanks.
So now let's get right into the presentation. Today, like I said, we're examining electoral crimes in Nigeria, strategies to deepening democratic practices and ethos. The status of democracy in Nigeria, the Democratic Index, is an index compiled by the Economist Intelligence Unit, the research division of the Economist Group, a UK-based private company which publishes the weekly newspaper The Economist. The index categorizes each country into one of four government types. Full democracy, you have 8% of the countries in the world, including the United Kingdom, Canada, France, Germany, who are said to practice full democracy. Then you have flawed democracy, 37%. Interestingly, when I looked at it, America is amongst them, Singapore, South Africa, and then hybrid democracy, Nigeria is amongst them, Pakistan, and others. And then you have autocratic regimes, China, North Korea, and Russia, and the rest of them. Nigeria ranks in the third category, which is defined by, 1, rigged and largely disputed elections, use of force and violence, pervasive use of force and violence, and then low voter participation, a biased electoral management body, corrupt judiciary, rampant corruption, and bad governance, etc. Prof, let me stop here and then bring you in. What's your take on this?
Well, for me, the ranking actually shows, the way, countries can, if they want to, improve their democratic practice. Okay. So when they are grouped in this, it means that if you want to move, for instance, Nigeria is considered to be a hybrid. That's a mixture of, democracy and authoritarianism. So there's a need to look at what are the things that makes Nigeria to have some authoritarian, things in place. These
factors that define the hybrid regime,
yes,
and that are listed out where Nigeria belongs, are they correct? Rigged and largely disputed elections, use of force and violence. Prof, what do you think?
When you look at the indices that are used to measure whether a country is a full democracy or not, I think to some extent we can say they are correct, because when you look at rigged and largely disputed elections, we've been having that, and I think it has increased even the number of disputed elections from 1999 to date. I think the last election, you had over 1,000 cases in court. That shows you that, you have that is a problem. Use of force and violence is also something that we see is prevalent in our electoral system. Low voter participation is also something. You have about 80-something million people that are registered, only 25 million came out, to vote. That shows low turnout, not less than even 30% of the registered voters. So a biased electoral management body, yes, we will say that Here you have an electoral body that will say, we are going to review a case, giving people hope that, you know, they will do the right thing. At the end of the day, they dash their hopes. So it means
corrupt judiciary.
Corrupt judiciary, yes. You have a corrupt judiciary because you now have a situation whereby the judiciary has virtually put itself as if it is part of the executive. Because some of the issues that are taken to court, right from the Amechi case, if you said Omehia was not the right person that has won primaries, but Omehia was the one that came out to campaign. Amechi never campaigned. You now went ahead and said Amechi was the rightful winner of the primary, so you brought him as a governor. Somebody who now saw a person who never went to canvass for votes, made governor. In the case of Imo State, somebody was number 4. You now converted yourself to INEC and said police had the result. Even when INEC was saying that, based on our result, it was Ehiodoha that won that election. You said no. Police have results. You now collected police result, added it, and said from number 4, somebody became number 1, and he's now the winner.
When the constitution mandates INEC as the only body that can declare a winner of an election.
So you see, the judiciary has actually, and the only reason that these things could be happening is nothing but corruption.
And the last point, Prof.
Rampant corruption and bad governance. Because in the democracy, now you have conducted elections, people are now in office. So what do you find? Is it the people's, issues that are being resolved by the government? And so you have rampant corruption in the government itself. And then you have also bad governance, because the people are completely isolated from the government. From the first point, rigged and largely disputed elections. When the elections are rigged, it means that somebody who has not really been the choice of the people can emerge, because the elections are rigged. And so when he gets in, because he has either bought his way into government, then he will do what pleases him, not what pleases the people. And that's why you now have bad governance, because what you now do is to please your friends, your close associates, empower them, party members, and then you forget about...
And the people suffer as a consequence.
Because you don't see any of the promises, being translated into reality.
Let me introduce our next guest, Barrister Sam Kagbo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. You're welcome, sir. If you have, of the entire sub-Saharan Africa, if you have 23 countries that are authoritarian, 14 are hybrid, meaning they just have a veneer of democracy. They are actually not democratic. And then you have 6 that are flawed, including South Africa. And only 1. What do you say to that?
Well, I may say it actually speaks to the stage of our development as a people, because mind you, no matter what you say here, these are all descriptions, or what you call an aggregate assessment of we as a people. What stage of development are we? Because yes, we have the laws, but the laws are aspirational. It's like telling you that if we do this, this is what we achieve. But as a people, what is actually our contribution to deepening democracy and actually making sure that governance deliver development and security that you are talking about? I do not think we as a people have actually acted very well and have actually put out ourselves to ensure that, yes, democracy deliver on its own promise.
Usually there's a popular refrain in Nigeria that, when we complain like this in the media or in enlightened circles about, our politicians they're not showing maturity, because this is 24 years into the 4th Republic. The usual refrain is, we're embarking on a journey to democratic maturity, that we should not compare ourselves to all these other advanced democracies. But guess what? As at the last count, there were 137 persons killed in the general elections of this year. 137 persons killed, 57 abducted. Does that show that we're growing into democratic maturity? Because if I show you a picture of the democratic process, there's nowhere violence, thuggery, and all of that is indicated. Are we growing? Actually, is our democracy? If I thought we can even call ourselves... I asked Prof before you came, so let me ask you, are we a democratic society?
Of course we are.
Okay.
Aspiring one, and we are on the way to democracy.
Okay.
But let me say, if we use that figure against other democracies, the picture would be too grim. And, but if we use that picture against where we are coming from, a history of our elections,
yes,
definitely you would say that there is an improvement.
okay,
Of course, Nigeria should have been a way above this, but take a look at the vastness of the country, the population that is involved. I heard Prof talking about low participation. Yes, but wherever you have more than 50 people participating in an election, you stress every aspect of what? The security process, and people take advantage of that thinness of the security apparatus.
Let's make progress.
To give order.
This is the voting process in an election. So it's just a diagram to show the voting process. So these are electorates coming into the entrance. So there's a party agent here. So you check your name on the voters register or voters roll, as the case may be. You have observers, they could be local or international. And then you have the inker who puts the ink on your thumb too. And then party agent is still standing here. So this is where they give you the ballot paper. Then, a party agent is standing here. This is the voting compartment where you're meant to vote. So if you see all of this and then you exit from here, there's nowhere here where there's meant to be violence or thuggery. This is meant to be a seamless process. Guess what, Prof and Barrister? In every other advanced democracy that I've studied, this is seamless. Every country that is categorized as full democracy, it is seamless. Indeed, even the countries that are tagged as flawed democracy, for instance, in America, you don't see violence in American elections. And yet American election is tagged flawed democracy, especially in the case of Donald Trump, where he brought all sorts of strange, practices, like, objecting to declaration of results and going to courts and all of that. But this is it's not specifically tailored to Nigeria, but I mean, it's a rough adaptation. Yes.
I think when I started, I talked about the law being aspirational.
Okay.
All of these ones are put together after taking into consideration so many things.
Yes.
And most of these processes are borrowed from well-organized societies.
Why are we not organized, Barrister? Why are we not organized? What stops us from being organized? 60 years after independence.
Forget about the date. Talk about yourself.
Yes.
How much have you been rehumanized as a person?
Yes.
What are your values?
Yes, exactly.
What are your orientation?
Exactly.
What is your cultural
but what is the state? What is the role of the government, of the states, to ensure everybody plays by the rule when the rules and the guidelines are set in place? It is the role of the state and institutions of states to ensure everybody plays by the rule. Am I wrong?
Definitely, but there are two aspects of what we should be looking at here. That is what we call the vertical mechanisms, which is what the government puts in place. What has the government done? The government has what? Established INEC. The government has also empowered INEC to organize the election in this framework that you are talking about. The National Assembly has made its laws. The
funding has been provided.
The
manpower is provided.
That is the vertical mechanisms.
Okay.
You understand?
Now what about the horizontal?
For the process, the horizontal mechanism is you and I. What have we put into this process
that is why
to
I
make
this
thing seamless?
It is the responsibility of the state. Let's bring in Prof. It is the responsibility of the state. Prof. Yes. Take it from there, Prof.
Yeah, you see, for me, I think this is supposed to be a very peaceful process. But you see, the stakes for the politician, not the citizens now, the stakes for the politician is very high because
the
for
stakes,
them,
the rewards, the dividends.
For them, when they get in there, that is what will make their lives better. I've been saying that, look, if you reverse the lives of all these, political, the politicians to 1999, who were these people really? What were they? What is their status in the society? What is their earning? What wealth do they really have? But you see, from 1999 to date, we have produced trillionaires that you cannot trace any form of business with them. But they have access to government resources. So you see, when you are looking, the process is supposed to be seamless. But then, because of what the politicians want, not necessarily what the citizens want, they make the entire process violent. And the people, because they tend to they don't understand, the way or where to apply their violence. So they apply the violence on themselves. Meanwhile, they are going to be the victims of the government at the end of the day, because when the government comes in, all of them are relegated. That's why you find all these problems now in terms of kidnapping, terrorism,
crimes, all
sorts of crimes going on. Because they are, whatever it is that they had hoped they will get from, their masters, they have dashed, their hopes. So the process is supposed to be very simple and straightforward, but unfortunately, the politician, and of course, the citizen, because if the citizens don't even support the violence, the politicians won't succeed in what they're doing, because they are so old, they can't carry ballot box and run up and down, to change figures and all that. But we have this now because, again, when you look at even the judiciary, because the role they are playing, really, it's not the role they should be playing, because elections should end at the polling unit.
We'll get there shortly, Prof. In fact, I listened to Professor Atariu Jega, former INEC chairman, on TV saying that we need to have perfect laws. And I'm thinking, this is a professor of political science. Who knows that? The United Kingdom does not even have a constitution in the first place, an unwritten constitution. And they practice democracy perhaps the best in the world, the United Kingdom. There are countries where they don't even have electoral guidelines like we do in Nigeria. And they have, flawless. Now, indeed, the 1999 constitution is the problem. Once we can fix the 1999 constitution, everything is okay. Gentlemen, let me start with you, senior advocate. What do you say to this?
We have, I'm sorry to use this word, but I think it's apt. We have this supermarket mentality. We almost always want.
And how do you mean by that? Supermarket mentality?
You see, we over-legislate. We make too many laws. Meanwhile, we don't emphasize the principles and the spirit behind those laws. And we also forget that no matter how beautiful the laws are, the characters matter. And
that is actually where our intervention this afternoon, Prof. So this is where that's the point we need to establish.
You see, if you look at our laws, they're adequate. Take a look at the entire, Part 7 of the Electoral Act. So many, there is a law against almost everybody. You understand? Even you, the journalist. There is a crime prescribed for you there, the observer. Every stakeholder, everybody who participates in the legal process, the law is looking at him, and there is what? A penalty for his slip. So the law is not the problem. The problem is the implementation. And we can only get effective implementation if we have what? The strong and capable institution to implement these laws.
We'll take this short break, and when we return, we'll continue with the conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Prof, you heard what the senior advocate said. Brilliant contribution. I agree entirely. What's your opinion? And I want you to specifically respond to the issue of making the appointment of INEC chair and regs open and transparent. That is going to solve the problem. Or let's conduct elections like they do in America. Or, perfect laws. What's your opinion about this?
You see, all these things we are talking about, everything boils down to our values. You see,
as a society, as a people.
As a people, as a society, what do we consider to be right? What do we consider to be wrong? If you can go and bring angels, not just to conduct elections, as long as we are going in with this character that we have, that we want to go and win by all means. Because that's the mentality of the politician. It's the politician that recruit the thugs. Thugs don't just start working without anybody recruiting them. They are recruited by the politicians. So if the politicians themselves will imbibe, this spirit of it is our country and we should love our country, so that the country will develop. Because there's no way you are coming in with all this idea and mentality that you must win. When you listen to the politicians going for elections, sometimes they say it's a do or die. In politics, if you want to do or die, go and join military. You don't bring it into politics because it's supposed to be a very peaceful.
It's like a game.
It's a peaceful
win
process.
Or you lose.
You win or lose. And you should go with that spirit. When you win, fine. And you shouldn't go. You see, the problem we're having is also the issue about this opposition system that we're practicing. Even though China is considered authoritarian, but you still find that, they have what they call, they practice democratic cooperation.
Absolutely.
So they have minority parties, but because they all look at it, they want to develop their country. That's what has taken them to be the second most developed economy around the world. While we are here praying opposition politics. And opposition simply means, if I'm not in government, I must work to ensure that I bring the government down. So that is not going to, it's not all these things, it's not that they're not important, but I don't think that's where the solution lies. It lies in our character and behavior.
Brilliant point. What we have said today, if I heard you very well, and I believe I did, this entire process, for it to work the way it should work, requires only one single factor: honorable men and women. At every point in this chain, what is required are honorable men and women. You are spot on, Prof. Even if you bring angels down to conduct elections in Nigeria, they will become like we are, because the environment is totally polluted with a warped value system. And that is why my next point is this. So how do we have honorable men and women to man our democracy? Because look at what is going on in Rivers State, as an example. What are your suggestions, one or two, or do you agree with this? Prof?
Yeah, for me, I think you should be able to punish offenders, because what you stated actually is like a coup plotter. Because the election, don't forget, that's what will bring in a government.
Absolutely.
And so anybody who goes into cause any form of confusion in the process deserves to be punished. You don't just allow them to go scot-free. Then this other point you're making is that political parties fingered in electoral crimes be prescribed. I don't think they should be proscribed. I don't think so. You see, it's a whole process of change.
But you need to punish them. Can they be banned for maybe a number of years of participating?
You see, all these are language of military. Ban, all those type of things. You see, there are things that they should be corrected.
Okay.
In areas they have done things that are not correct, they should be corrected.
What do you think, Son?
Well, I agree with you, but let me go back to your point. Yes. I think if I'm to...
the last slide 8.
If I'm to make any amendment, I would say knowledgeable people. Let's educate the people more about the purpose of election.
Okay.
The more of that we have, and the more of that...
Sensitization of people about
educating them about
tenets.
the electoral process and how it affects us.
What do you think about candidates? This is my third suggestion. Candidates or citizens who engage in electoral crimes be banned from... Prof said these are military language. Don't you think so? Because we need to send, say, George Saville, a British philosopher said...
I don't see anything wrong with it. Even some states have even started going after Trump. One state has even...
exactly, Prof. If you don't send strong deterrence, this is going to continue.
Yeah. I would even go further than that, but I've stated it here in one of your programs. If I have my way, it's not just banning you, but banning anybody who is associated with you.
Exactly.
So that we
Fourth one.
Some sort of
we need to have an electoral crimes register be created with the names of convicted electoral criminals who can never participate in the election. Prof.
You see, let me just take you a little bit back to what you're saying. You see, if you say banning them, don't forget that you are in a democracy.
Yes.
So they will go and form an association of ban politicians, and you will never have peace. So that's why I said that must be handled with some care.
How do we deal with them?
You will deal with them, but you must be very careful in dealing with them.
Okay.
Then you're talking about electoral crimes register be created with names of convicted electoral criminals who can never participate in electoral process. Well,
this is borrowed from the sex offenders register.
Yeah, I was coming to it. If you have that, why not have it? You see, Prof, you see, sometimes we get overly nice with this sort of behavior.
Exactly.
That is why they fester.
Exactly.
That is why they
It's like a cancer. We need to nip it in the
let me tell you something. We cannot get anywhere if we don't get it right at this point, the electoral process. The electoral process is actually what deepens democracy.
Absolutely.
You cannot deepen democracy without having what? A transparent
process, credible, free.
And a credible process. Because here it is. The moment you are elected, the world is on your palm.
Exactly.
Our fate are in your hands. Exactly. Whatever you want to do, the law cannot take back your powers. Exactly. Once those powers land in your hands, that's what you do.
Exactly.
You understand? Let's start from there. We'll start excluding these sort of individuals who are already known with this sort of character. The moment we do that, that will send down the signal down the line.
Exactly.
even their own, what do you call it, supporters.
Exactly.
They have parents. They are coming from home. The parents will say, hey, if you do this, this is how it's going to affect your future.
Quickly, Prof. Prof. The fifth one, judges, because now our judges are active players. In America, Prof. and Sand, I observed something when Donald Trump took over 50 or 60 cases, different courts in America. Number one observation, most of those judges, the courts, dispense with those cases in less than 24 hours.
You see, that is their process.
Number two, meaning they were reluctant to get involved in the electoral process.
That comes to the point we are talking about. You see, political disputes are not actually meant for the court.
They are not.
Anywhere you see the court being bogged down by political disputes, you make nonsense of the entire judicial process. Because look at what is happening to us now as lawyers. Over 70% of the energy and time of the court is on electoral disputes.
Prof,
yeah, so round up. For me, I've said that the judiciary has no room at all. All this is supposed to end at the polling unit. And I'm saying that because, at the polling unit, after elections have been conducted, it's usually peaceful. The crime starts when people start snatching
ballot boxes
and so on. But if you have a process where 8 people have voted and it was already captured in the results have been transmitted.
Yes.
So you find a way of making that activity of coming to attack a polling unit completely useless because results have already gone. So if you do that, so if you have a more smarter, more ingenious way of how do you get the results, on time, out of the unit, so that nobody can come and start, then you now have genuine winners. And then when you have somebody who has won genuinely, then of course, you have a better government than all this punishment. I know that when you take them to how many cases do you have in the judiciary? They have not resolved all these electoral offenders.
I would advise that we be cautious in the sort of appellations we give to the judges. 9 out of 10 we are wrong about what they do and why they do what they do. I think as lawyers we are to blame because we give the wrong impression about what they do.
I agree with you on that.
If you ask me, of the 3 arms of government, if we have the legislature and the executive, 1/10 of the quality of the judiciary will be better.
I think I agree with you. Now, I have to thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. I appreciate you, Prof. I appreciate you, sir. Thanks for coming. That's the time we can take. Now, that's the end of the program today. You can follow me on my various social media handles. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can watch this particular video and the other ones that are there. Drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.